Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today we're up to Daf Chav Beis and Avodah Zarah. We start from where we finished yesterday. Chav Aleph and Beis, 3 lines from the bottom, the first wide line. It's a Braisa. Tanya zug the Heilige Braisa. The Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer. Shimon ben Elazar says, Lo yaskir Adam Sudeu Lekusi. Person should not rent out his field to a kusi. Who's a kusi, right? Kusi is a very interesting guy. He's like a hybrid Jew. He keeps part of it, he doesn't keep the other part. Which part does he keep? Keeps only what? Torah Shebechsav. He does not keep Torah Shebal Peh. So the halacha is, you're not allowed to rent a field to a kusi, because everybody knows that it's the Jew's field. And this guy called kusi is going to work on the Chalamayid. Now, why is he going to work on the Chalamayid? Because Chalamayid is not a Mefurshah Isser. It's Torah Shebal Peh. So he doesn't keep Torah Shebal Peh. So you're not allowed to work on Chalamayid. So other Jews, we talk, we schmooze, we share the news, the mikvah, whatever. Everybody knows already right away. People are going to talk and say, Yankel hired this kusi to work for him on Chalamayid, which is Amir Lakum. You're not allowed to, whatever you're not allowed to do, you're not allowed to hire a guy. So the Brisa says, Shimon says, don't rent your field to a kusi, because this kusi is going to end up doing mulach and chalamayid, and it's maras hayin. Everybody's going to see, the Jews are going to pass by, going to see a kusi work in your field, and they're going to say that you hired him to work, to do a malacha that's asr. So therefore it's asr. You're not allowed to do that. Avol, oived kechavim mai, it sounds like only a kusi, or that from the Brisa. Only a kusi, but what about a guy, a legit guy, doesn't even keep Torah Shebechsav? Shari, that's mutter. Why? Why is a guy mutter? Why is a guy any better? Right? Why don't we say the same gzeira is by a non-Jew? If I rent out my field to a non-Jew and he's going to work on it in Chalamayid, what are people going to say? I hired him and I'm over an Amir La'akim. Why is it any different if it's a guy? Why should it matter if it's a guy or a kusi? It's Gemara's question. Gemara says, you know why it's mutter by a guy? The Amri, because we say, Arisa Arisuse Ovid. This guy is not just a shliach. He's not just a guy who works daily or weekly. Yeah? My Rebbe used to say he works weekly, very weekly. Like very weekly, gets paid weekly, very weekly. This guy gets paid not based on the days, the weeks, or the months that he works. He gets paid based on the profit, the produce that grow in the field. An aris usually gets paid either mechza, shlish, or revia, becomes a partner in it. So Mele becomes a partner in it, so it's not a problem, because he's working for himself also. So that's why it's not an issue to have a guy work in the field. Even if people are going to think that it's the Jew's field, they're not going to be choishish, not going to suspect you as doing an isser, because they're going to understand that the agreement is different. It's an aris, and there's no problem with an aris. If so, kusinami. So if a guy, there's no problem because people are going to assume it's an aris. So why by a kusi is there a problem? Amri, they're going to say, Arisa Risusi Ovid. Let them say the same thing. Why do you assume that they're going to assume that the kusi is a aris also? Says the Gemara, Arisusa Reb Shimon ben Elazar Lesle. No, Shimon ben Elazar doesn't hold of an aris. He doesn't hold this as a svara b'chlal that people are going to assume it's an aris. People are going to assume that you hired him. He's a sachir. He gets paid daily for his work. And Mamela, he's a shliach. And if he's a shliach, you're doing something wrong. Right? It's Amir Lanachri. You're having a guy do work for you that you're usher to do. So Mamela, it's usher by a kusi. My time of mutter. So why by a guy is it mutter? Why is he only limiting it to a kusi? Teretz is the Amrina Levitzayis. Because a guy, when you tell him not to work or do malacha, achalamayid, or on Shabbos, he listens. He listens. But a kusi thinks he's smarter than you. So maybe he's not going to listen.
He has a different set of rules.
What do you mean?
Because the kusi is only a Torah Shebechsav.
Right.
So he says he has a different set of rules as far as he doesn't keep the chacham.
Yeah, so Mele, he is religious about his beliefs.
It's
So
this way.
or this beliefs. So Mele is not going to believe. Kusi loitzai is the Omar, says the Gemara, ano gemir netvei minach. He's an arrogance, right? He mamish b'shita listens only to Torah Shebechsav and not Torah Shebal Peh. So he's not going to listen to you on Torah Shebal Peh because he doesn't believe in it. He believes all in Torah Shebechsav. That's why you shouldn't hire a kusi or rent it out to a kusi because he's going to actually do malacha then. Ihachi my iryam neshnikras al shemoi. Why is the problem marasayan? Tepaklei mishim v'lifnei iver leisitin mechshoil. It's an Isser Torah. Why? Because a kusi is chayv in mitzvahs. So he himself really, kusi is a ger. So he himself really, it's also for him to do malach and chalamayid. So why is Ibn Shimon Elazar say I can't rent it to a kusi? Because if he works in chalamayid, people are going to assume he's your shliach, and you're over an Isser Durabanon of Amir L'Nachri. You're over on Lefnei Iver, because the kusi himself is not allowed to do a malacha. So by facilitating the merchatz into his possession, you are over on Lefnei Iver, so it should be a problem Lefnei Iver. Why is the Tana only telling me an Isser of Maras Ayin if you could tell me a much bigger Isser of Lefnei Iver? Says the Gemara, Chod of Oid Kamar, Shimon Elazar really is telling you one of two, but the MS, Chod of Mishim Lefnei Iver, V'oid Neshikos Shmai. It's both. You're right. There are two Isurim to rent it out to a kusi. Number one, people are going to believe he's your shliach and you're over an Amir La'akum or Amir L'Nachri, or you're making a shliach, and also because of Lifnei Iver. So the Gemara weiter. Hani Murikai. We have a story here. There were these gardeners, two gardeners. The Ovid Kechavim Naked B'Shab. So one was a Jew and one was a non-Jew. The guy basically took it upon himself to do the work on Shabbos. The Yisrael B'Chad B'Shabsa. And the Jew did it on Sunday. Okay, that's how they split it. Because the Jew is not allowed to do Malach on Shabbos. So the guy did Malach on Shabbos, and the Jew did Malach on Sunday. Also, Lakamei de Rava. So they came to Rava, and the Shaila was, is it mutter to do that? Why shouldn't it be mutter to do that? What should be the problem here? Problem would be that if they're both obligated to work together in the field, so if the guy only works on Shabbos and the Jew works on Sunday, then it looks like, or perhaps it is, a form of shlichus. Because the guy is really doing a shlichus for the Jew on Shabbos, because the Jew can't do it. And then the Jew is compensating that time by him doing the work on Sunday. So this could be a problem of what? Of Amir L'Nachri, of shlichus. Because the only way the Yid can accept this partnership is by the guy doing the malach on Shabbos on his behalf. Because the Yid can't do the malach on Shabbos.
Tell him your part is Shabbos.
So, in other words, you're saying that that's what they agreed upon to begin with. The Gemara's going to talk about that. So if they agreed upon that to begin with, then that's Taka Reb Shol is saying that should be okay. Here, at this point, in this story, they didn't stipulate in the beginning that you work on the Shabbos and I work on Sunday. They were supposed to work both every day in the field. Now that they're splitting up Shabbos and Sunday, the only reason why they're splitting up is because the Jew can't work on Shabbos, so he's having the guy work on his behalf. He's having the guy do his half on Shabbos. So asks the Gemara, Shaila, could you have enough from that? Are you allowed to do that? Also, the Rava said, Sharlu, it's mutter. Esave Ravina l'Rava. So Ravina asked the Rava, what do you mean? How is it mutter? There's a brisa that says Yisrael v'avcham shekiblu sada b'shutfis, that a Jew and a non-Jew that were mekabel, except they signed the contract with the owner that they're both going to be arisim, they're both going to be workers, gardeners in this field, right? And each one is going to take a portion of the produce. Lo yoymar Yisrael lo oived kechavim. The Jew is not allowed to tell a guy, Toil chelkecha b'Shabbos v'ani b'chol. You take your chelik on Shabbos, right? And I'll, instead of not working on Shabbos with you, I'll do it on Sunday, let's just say, right? Because since every day they're supposed to work together in the field, by saying you do Shabbos and I do Sunday, what you're really saying essentially is, you take over my half on Shabbos for me. That's shlichus. You're not allowed to do that. So the Gemara says, it's halacha. Brisa says, Lo yoymer Yisrael v'chelkecha b'Shabbos v'ani b'chol. And v'mhisnu metchila, if by the signing of the contract, Reb Shol says, let's say in the beginning, that's how they set it up to begin with. They said that you work on Shabbos and I work on Sunday, which means that there was never a point in time where the Jew was obligated to work on Shabbos, right? From the outset, they stipulated, you do Shabbos, I'll never be mechuyev to work on Shabbos. I'll do Sunday. So then if the guy works on Shabbos, he's not doing it on behalf of the Jew. Because the Jew was never obligated to do it on Shabbos. That's a Mehisna Matchila. That's the Maila. Then it's Mutter. Then Bo L'cheshbain. Oh, Reb Tzvi is there, Mo is there, Gabe is there. No? Gewalt. Gabe, was a surf day today? I see your... yeah, okay.
Is the other worker paying?
The Bailam is paying. The
So
owner.
what would be the issue if he's not paying? So how's he a shliach?
Because they're both responsible to work the field every single day. So, and they're getting paid for both of them working every single day. So, still, they get paid equally. So, how would they get paid equally if they both have a responsibility to work every single day? So, the only way they could do it is by exchanging, by saying, look, you do my work on Shabbos and I'll do your work on Sunday. That essentially means that I'm making you a shliach for me on Shabbos. Yeah. So the Gemara says, if at the end, let's say there was no Tanai to begin with, just at the time when they came to split up the money, the Yisrael said, look, you take for Shabbos, I take for Sundays, Osir, it's also Osir, because once he separates the money in such a way, then the Yid is Megale reveals that the Goy was a Shliach for Shabbos, and that's a problem. Anyway, bottom line is, Rava paskind that it's mutter if you have a Goy do the Malach on Shabbos and the Jew do it on Sunday without having stipulated beforehand. Rava says it's mutter, no problem. And the Brisa says it's Asr. So Ravina asked the Rava, how could you paskin against the Brisa? Rava, as great as he was, is an Amira. He can't go against the Brisa Tana. So the Gemara says, Ichsef. Rava got embarrassed. Rava was embarrassed. He says, you know what? I might have made a mistake. L'soif igloi milsa. At the end, it was revealed that although Rava, in his mind, thought he made a mistake, but the circumstances actually fit Rava's psak. How so? Because the story there was the hisnu me'ikarahavu, that they made a Tanai to begin with, that the guy works on Shabbos, the Jew works on Sunday, and in such a case, it's mutter to split the money because the Jew was never responsible for Shabbos, so the guy was never a shliach for Shabbos. So, at the end of the day, Rava might have made a mistake, but we know the Gemara in Gittin says that Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mevi tekala tzadikim, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't bring a takala to tzadikim.
No, it's only talking about food, though.
It's only talking about, Taisva says, right? It's only talking about food. Right.
What about Pinchas and Yair?
What about Pinchas and Yair? What over there?
That's Tosfos.
Donkey, he
Didn't work on Shabbos.
Did not want to work on Shabbos, but he told him that he doesn't own him anymore, no?
That's after he told him.
Told him in his ear, so...
So that's after he told him. But
after he told him, but not before, because...
he
Right.
thought he's not supposed to.
Yeah, right.
אין הקדוש ברוך הוא תקלה לצדיק בכל דבר.
Say what?
בכל דבר מביא תקלה, גם באוכל, גם בכל דבר מביא תקלה לצדיק.
Yeah, b'chol davar.
כל דבר.
Okay, but either way, it seems in this Gemara, the Gemara had Rava Siyata Deshmaya, because Rava Paskin, it's mutter. The truth is, the Bryce says it's aser. But it turned out in the end that the circumstances in that case fit with Rava's psak. Right? That's what the Gemara is saying. So, okay, Rava was correct at the end of the day. Rav Gvia mi Beit Kassel Omar. Rav Gvia from Beit Kassel is the name of a place. He says another teretz how to reconcile Rava with the Brisa. He says Hanu Shatole De'or Lahava. When the story that came in front of Rava between this Jew and non-Jew, and the Jew worked on Sunday, the non-Jew worked on Shabbos, was regarding Shatole De'orla. It was young plants of arla, of a tree, that the first 3 years, we know, when you plant a tree, first 3 years is asr, right? The pears are asr, the fruits are asr, and the 4th year, you can only eat it in Yerushalayim. The 5th year is when it's mutter legamri. So here,
Now, it's also us for the first 2 years or no?
we're in Chutz La'aretz,
Yeah.
the Rabbon, it's not so simple. I don't, not Medaraisa, for sure not. because arla is mitzvahs atluis ba'aretz. Yeah, it's mitzvahs ba'aretz. So it's not for sure not midaraisa. I think that there's some place can hold midrabanan. We had the shaila asked her by Tauber because we had a lemon tree when we moved into our house that was taken that was rerooted. Yeah, it was rerooted. So I think for sure that rerooted is not an issue. I don't think that's for sure not an issue. But this story was with Natiyas Shel Arla. Natiyas Shel Arla means that the first 3 years was Aser. So the guy, Ovid Kechavim, Achel Shnei de Arla. Ovid Kechavim said, I'll eat the first 3 years. The Jew is not allowed to eat from this Arla tree because it's 3 years, the first 3 years. So he says, I'll take the first 3 years, the Yisrael Shnei da Teira, and the Yisrael will eat the next 3 years. Yes. So now it sounds like that the Yisrael is exchanging the fruits of Arla with the non-Jew. Right? So there's an exchange happening with something that's usher to him. Asl Kamei de Rava, they came to ask Rava Shaila if it's mutter to make this exchange, to make this agreement where the non-Jew eats the first 3 years of Arla and the Jew eats the second 3 years. Asl Kamei de Rava, Sharlahu. He was mater. Why was he mater? Because there's no isser to work the tree, to do agriculture on trees of Arla. The only isser is to eat the fruits. So when the guy worked on the trees of Arla, there was Bachlal no isser. So somebody's going to watch this non-Jew work on these trees. There's no Amir Lanachri. Why? Because Amir Lanachri is only when it's usher for the Yid. I can't tell a guy to do it for me. But here it's mutter for the Yid to work on trees of Arla. So therefore, Rava says, no problem. What happened? What am I missing?
At the end of the Gemara,
Oh, he's right. It's with everything, not just
אומר, כגון מי שעזרים בכל מעשה, כל רבי חנן בן גמליאל, אזי השם יתברך שברו שלא יבוא וייתן מכל כלל. So it's according to what if you are שומר מכל דבר, אז השם מכל דבר. אם אתה רק שומר ממאכל, אז השם קשור אותך עם מאכל. אבל אם אתה שומר מהכל, אז השם קשור אותך מהכל.
Yeah.
Explain in English.
Meaning that the Kadosh Baruch Hu saves tzaddikim, he protects tzaddikim from averis, not just when it comes to food, but with anything.
הכל. אם הוא מקפיד על הכל, אז השם מקפיד איתו על הכל.
Whatever they're makbid on.
Right.
Exactly, זה מה שהוא אומר. אז אם הצדיק הוא מקפיד על הכל, אז הוא שומר אותו הכל. זה מה שהוא אומר.
Yeah, he gets extra.
When Levi, when he went to Gan Eden, they said if he never made a lie in his life, we'll let him stay. Right.
Shubal Levi, yes.
Then he never lied, so then he
Beautiful. Beautiful. So whatever you're careful in, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mida Keneged Mida, you uphold it, you hold it high, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. Says the Gemara, if Rava was really correct, it was talking about Arla, which means there was nothing wrong. Rava was matter something which is very simple, right? Because the guy was working the first 3 years on the trees of Arla, that's why he got the fruits. But there's nothing wrong with working on trees of Arla. You're allowed to work, you're just not allowed to eat the fruits, but you're allowed to work it. So there's no chashash that people who are watching the guy work the tree of Arla, they're going to say that he's doing it on the Jew's behalf. A Jew himself is allowed to do it. So if there's nothing wrong with it, so Ravina L'Rava, if you look at the story, Ravina asked Rava Shaila, what's the kasha b'chalal? Yeah, it says Rava got embarrassed. What's there to ask from the Brisa? There's nothing to ask. If Rava if Rava was correct to begin with, what did Ravina ask for? The Gemara says, L'sayu esaye. No, according to this version of the story, Ravina didn't ask, he brought him a raya. The Gemara says, if he brought him a raya, it says in the next part of the story, ve'ichsef. He got embarrassed. So the Gemara says, La'adam, lo'hoy dvar ma'olam. So, okay, so listen, I tell stories all the time. So I know, and I do research. And sometimes I do research, I hit a brick wall, and I realize, La'adam, a lot of times people have stories. For example, I'll tell you a Maisa, famous story with Ruby Shron, right? I've told you the story many times. Ruby Shron was not a wealthy. Ruby Shron is you ever heard of Ruby Shron?
No.
Okay, Ruby Shron, according to the Forbes 500, the 400 list, he's one of the wealthiest people, billionaire. All right, so he's a big philanthropist. And the story, legend has it. How did he make his fortune? Yeah, everybody wants to know, how did he get rich, right? We all want the secret to wealth. The secret goes like this. Amazing story. He didn't have any money, got married, and he borrowed money to buy his first house. And the seller told him that the only way I'm selling you the house is if you're buying all the furniture inside it. I don't want to deal with the furniture. I don't want to deal with the mattresses, the beds, the dressers. You take it as is, you take it all, and you pay me for it, I sell you the house. They signed the contract, he agreed, and he bought the house. A couple of months later, he has a son. His son's name is Morty Shron. He lives in Lakewood. And he was a young boy, 6 years old at the time, and he's jumping on one of the mattresses. Jumping up and down, up and down, up and down, and all of a sudden, money starts flying out from the side of the mattress. There was a hole, and apparently the previous owner stuffed money in there, or maybe, I don't know, maybe his grandmother who he didn't know stuffed money in there. Somebody had stuffed money in the mattress, and money flies out, and they counted. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And Ruby Shron says, hey, the guy sold it to me as is. It's in the contract, you know? Whatever it is. Huh? Tishma Sipur. So Ruby Shron goes to Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, and he asks him a shayla. Says, I'm a mechuyev to return this money. So legend has it that Rav Moshe told him that al pi halacha, you can keep it. But if you return it and you make a Kiddush Hashem, then I promise you tremendous bracha and atzlacha, blessings, ashirus, ad b'lidai. He returned the money, and today he's a billionaire. Okay, that is the legend. So a couple of years ago, I was invited to speak on Shabbos at the Shron family's house. Morty Shron does a Shabbos for orphans, and they asked me if I can come and, speak to these 100 Yisayim. And Ruby Shron was there. His father, Ruby Shron. So Shabbos day, I sit next to him. I said, Ruby, I always wanted to ask you about the story. Is it true? And I tell him the story the way I heard it. He listens carefully, and he looks at me and he says, Rabbi Gold, it's only halfway true. It's only half of the story is true. I said, which half? He said to me, my son jumped in a mattress. True. We found a stack of money in it. True. I went to Rav Moshe Feinstein. True. Here's the part where it's not true. I asked Rav Moshe if I'm allowed to keep it, and Rav Moshe said, the halacha is you have to return it. So I said, Ruby, so there was no blessing? Like there was no promise of wealth? So he scratches his head and he says, I think before I left, he said, Hatzlacha. That was it. Kacha, la'adam. Never happened. I saw the story written up in books. People fly. You know what else he said? I asked him, I said, oh my gosh, so now you ruined it for all of us. I thought in order to become a billionaire, all I got to do is buy a house as is, find money in a mattress, return it, and then I'll become a billionaire. You just ruined it. You just ruined the secret. I said, how do I become a billionaire? He said, you wanna be rich? He said, I'll give you the secret. And this is a billionaire. He says, three principles you have to keep. Number one is work hard. Work hard. So 2 contractors on the couch over there, they're resting up now. They're hard days at work. They're like, we work hard. Then he says, number 2, be honest. Always be honest. Integrity. Never, ever lie. Give back whatever it is. Number 2. And number 3, pray for siyata deshmaya. Pray for divine assistance. That's the Holy Grail. Those are the 3 steps you need to take to be successful. Divine assistance. Daven. Divine assistance. Work hard. I haven't looked into it, but you have to look into it. I guess as is doesn't mean if it's a anan sahadi. I'm sure there's an umdina that he didn't mean the money. Okay, maybe it's a difference. Right. Yeah. This is only in Yiddish. I can tell you the story. Somebody came to the Satmar Rebbe Rabbi Yoel, and there's a famous segula, very famous segula, that the third day, Tuesday of Parshas B'Shalach, if you read Parshas Aman, you get rich. So this chassid came to the Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel. She says, for 20 years, Rebbe, I'm saying Parshas Aman on Tuesday, and Sa'arbet nicht. Sa'arbet nicht in Yiddish means it doesn't work. The Sa'arbet nicht doesn't work. The Rebbe says, the Zgula works fine. You're not working. Ruby says, work hard, divine assistance, stay honest. But anyways, the reason why I'm bringing this up, yeah. זה עובד טוב, אתה לא עובד. אוקיי.
שאלתי פעם את הרב סנטינג, את הרב נגר של הסגולה פרנסה, אומר לי, תראה, אותו דבר גם כן, מה הסגולה שהאוטו ייסע? אז אמרתי לו, מה? אמר לי, לשים דלק.
יפה מאוד. Okay, listen, I could sit here all night and tell you stories that I heard in my 10-year career that when I researched it, lahadam, so the Gemara says, according to this version, ichsef Rava got embarrassed. The Gemara says, never happened. Okay, weiter. Boilu. Says the Gemara, stoma mai, what about when they divide the schar b'stoma? Yeah? Lo yitnu. They didn't say you work on Shabbos, I work on the weekday. And even when they divided the profits, they didn't say anything. So what's the halacha there? Is it a problem or no? Tashema, im hisnu etchila muter. Sounds like the Braisa only if they stipulate to begin with, then it's muter. Stama aser, so must be it's aser. Im seifa, im bo lecheshboin aser. Only in the end, when they're dividing the profits, the produce, and they say, the Jew says, you take for Shabbos, I take for Sunday, that's it's aser. Stama muter. So it's a stira in the inference of the Braisa. One inference is mashma stama is aser, the other is stama muter. Elamal lekel mashma minos, you don't have a raya. So stama mai remains to be a shaila. Hadron alach lefnei yidayin, hadron alach lefnei yadayin, hadron yadayin. Lamaisa, I want to tell you, look, Daf Yomi goes so fast, right? You blink and the first parak is over. Yeah, we just started Avodah Zarah and we're about to start the second parak. Why? How does it go so fast? The truth is, it doesn't go so fast. It's just consistency, yeah? If you show up every night, happens to be for me, it's not going so fast. Yeah? If you show up every night and you learn, you realize, koivitz yad al yad yarba, a couple of blot ago, the Gemara says, do one blot a day. You'll be surprised how many blats of Gemara you'll learn in your life. Yeah, from the time we started the shiur until now, 400 blot. Could you imagine that? 400 blot from last year's Shavuos. I can't even process that. How many do I remember? I think I remember one out of the 399, the other 399. Doesn't matter, but we're learning. And we're learning Torah. Okay, Zug the Heilige Mishnah. We start the second parak. Ein ma'amida behema put the kois. You're not allowed to put a behema in inns, right? In different hotels. You can't have behemoths around. Shel oivdei kechavim. Anywhere goyim stay, don't keep your animals around. Why? Mepnei shechashudin al reviyah. Because if you keep your animal next to a goy overnight, next morning you never know what happened to that animal, right? They might mate with that animal. Okay, and what's the problem if they mate with the animal? Problem is, lifnei iver leisitin michshar. You're facilitating an aveira that goyim are mitzvah on. Why are goyim mitzvah on reviyah? Yeah? So over here we see, Rashi brings, the Rishonim say, B'nei Noyach nasru ba, even a Ben Noyach is osir on reviyah. We know Sheva mitzvah B'nei Noyach, right? That we know. But this is also one of the mitzvah B'nei Noyach. The chsiva hoyu lo basar echad, yotzu behem b'chai v'oif. The behem b'chai v'oif is osir to a guy. Okay? And therefore it's lifnei even l'sitim michshol. You're putting a stumbling block in front of a guy that's mitzvah to stay away. V'lo tisyached isha imohen. Don't allow a woman to be alone with a guy, mipnei shechashudin al arayis. Pashat. Not even a male. Nobody. Because they're chashud on shvichas damim. So over here they bring from the Rishonim that's only in places where they don't have the death penalty for goyim, where people are killed. Which means that's a great question. Rabbi Yoel wants to know, what about all these housekeepers? You leave your children with housekeepers. They're non-Jews. What about Chashud Shvichas Damim? What? Nest cam. Yeah. Oh, he says that helps? Ah, beautiful. Okay, good to know. Yeah. Shmuley is saying they're not Chashudim.
Why are they suspicious?
Why?
Right. So that's why I see on the bottom of the art scroll over here they bring down the Chavas Yair, Binas Odam, Ritvo. They bring down that this Mishnah, when we say that goyim are suspicious on Shlichus Damim, that's only where the government doesn't take the necessary measures to punish somebody who kills. So, like in California, chashudim al Shlichus Damim, right? But if you're in Texas, it could be different. It depends which state, if it's Republican or Democrat, if it's liberal, right? So here we have a differentiation, a chiluk, where you're at. Okay, but either way, not a good idea. Either way. Says the Gemara, turn the page, you're a mini, asks the Gemara a contradiction. Loikchen man behema lekarbin. Yeah, you're allowed to buy a behema from a non-Jew l'shem carbon. Ve'ein chosheshin, and you don't have to be choshesh. You don't have to suspect that this carbon is puzzle. Loi misham reveya, that maybe the behema was the owner before you bought it made it with the behema. V'loi misham nirba, v'loi misham muktzah. Yeah, maybe they set it aside for Avodah Zarah. V'loi misham nevad, or the behema itself was made into Avodah Zarah. So in other words, you see from this brisa that there's no suspicion at all for a guy to mate with an animal, because you're allowed to buy an animal from them to bring it as a carbon. As Gemara says, Bishleim muktzah v'nevad. I understand that you don't have to be suspicious that they set it aside for an Avodah Zarah, or they serve the behemoth itself for an Avodah
We
Zarah.
said that they're not going to do that because it ruins it.
Oh, I was going to answer.
Oh, okay.
And Isa, the aktze, the Isa the falche, if he actually set it aside as an Avodah Zarah, or he served it, have a mazabale. The guy would never sell it to you. So if he's selling it to you, that means that he never set it aside or served this behemoth of Avodah Zarah. El misham revei v'nirba, but not to be choshid for revei v'nirba lechush. You just told me, right? The Mishnah just said that don't have behemoths stay in an inn together with goyim because they're choshed al reviyah. So how can you buy behemoth for a carbon from them? Why not? Beautiful. That's exactly what it is. Rab Shol is always a step ahead. A person, a guy, if he owns the animal, he never wants to mate with his own animal. You know why? Because he might come to make them sterilize, make them into akara. Right? He might come to ruin the chances of this animal ever having children. That's only by a female, right? So a male guy with a female animal, he doesn't want to do it because he wants this animal to still be able to bear children. Zecharim, but what about zecharim, right? Michael and Meimar, why are they kosher like Rava? Here you don't have the svara that a guy doesn't want to do it because like the akar. It's a zachar. Rav Kahana, no, even if it's a zachar, goyim do not want to mate with their animal, even if it's a male. Because it weakens the animal. It weakens the animal, so they don't want the animal to go down in value, so they don't do it. Elohad the Tanya asks the Gemara, okay, now that we've established that if the guy owns the animal, he doesn't do it to his own animal. Elohad the Tanya, so now that we learn the Brisa, loikchen behema, meiroya shalahen, that you're allowed to buy a behema for a carbon from a shepherd, a goy shepherd that shepherds the sheep or the animals of other goyim. You're allowed to buy from him a behema for a carbon. Asks the Gemara, Leichish Dilma Rava. This shepherd doesn't own the animal, right? He's entrusted with other people's animals. So if he's entrusted with other people's animals, you don't have the svara that he doesn't want to weaken the animal because it's not even his. It's not his. He doesn't really care. So how am I allowed to buy an animal from a raya, from a shepherd? You don't have the svara shloite akar or machisha bebasar. Says the Gemara, no. Roya Shalahen misyare misham hafset schar. The Roya Shalahen is afraid that the owners are going to realize what he did, and they're not going to pay him at the end because he misused the animals. Right? They entrusted him to feed the animals, to take care of the animals, and instead he was reveying them. Elohadetani asks the Gemara, why do we say in the Brisa that a Yisrael should never give his behema l'roya shalahen? Don't give your behema to a non-Jewish shepherd. Why? Because we're afraid that the non-Jewish shepherd is going to be revei the behema. What happened to the svara that they don't do it because they don't want to lose their payment? Gemara says depends who's giving it to the roya. If a goy gives it over to a goyish shepherd, then maratzi, then he's afraid to misuse the animal. You know why? Because the goyim, they're all shatav bezima. They're all guilty of the same sin, and so the goyim suspect each other of doing it. So they're easily going to suspect the shepherd that they might have done it. They're going to check for signs, and the shepherd is afraid that he's going to lose the payment, the wages, because they're going to realize. But Anan, a Jew's mind is where? A Jew's mind is in Torah. Right? He gives over an animal to a shepherd. Do you think he's thinking well, the shepherd did something wrong like that? Anan de loya dina bahu. We're not even thinking about the stuff. Loy miratzi, they're not afraid of us to misuse our animal and mate with them because they don't think that we're ever going to realize it because our minds are not there, right? We don't do that. So therefore, the halacha is that you're not allowed to give, a Jew is not allowed to give over an animal to a non-Jewish shepherd. Rabbi says, that's the saying people say, Machtova glola baza, ragola b'chavre yoda. How do you translate it in English? Doctor, please help me.
As the stylist scores marble, so does the slanderer recognize his fellow.
The stylist
Scores marble.
You know what that means? I need another. I need a dictionary for
Just
this.
as a chiseler
is,
chisels marble, so too that person.
So too.
The slanderer recognizes his fellow.
Okay. In other words, two people are guilty of the same sin. They recognize each other. They know.
Even though marble is
says
extremely
the-
hard substance, it is afraid of the stylist because it knows the stylist can
It
score.
knows the strength of the stylist. The more
Galaz
it's hard,
is
it
so.
knows the strength of the
Because
guy
he's the one that
carving
chisels it.
Chisels it.
Yeah. And therefore, so what's the nimshel? So
Same
too.
here, people
can,
know
like-
if a guy himself is a shady guy, then he knows this. They know each other are shady.
They know each other. They know
each other's
right.
ability.
They recognize each other.
רגיל.
It's regular.
He
so
knows,
it's
he knows.
it's like projection.
בסדר.
Projection.
Okay.
The guy is a bad character. He projects that onto other people.
Wow, he projects it. That's the.
Everyone's like him.
He recognizes talent. He has talent, the other guy has talent, so they know.
Yeah, Mo was saying a little bit differently. He's saying that the Baal Shem Tov says, "Kol Adam Roya." Kol
Person has a
to
movement
be helped.
itself.
Yes, Kol a Paisel, B'mumay Paisel. Right,
He sees another guy.
right.
Recognizes it.
Yeah, it says in the Mishnah, "Negan Kol Negoyim Adam Roya, Chutz Menige Atzmai." Right, the person can always can see everybody else in the Goyim. Halacha by Kain, not allowed to let paskin in his own nega. So what does Baal Shem Tov teach? Kol Negoyim Adam Roya Chutz Menige Atzmai. Anything, any nega you see outside of yourself, that's menige atzmai. Okay, so basically, people, I guess, crooks know crooks. That's what it means.
Hashem does the Talmudic, and someone came and said, anybody needs anything to be fixed, like a worker man, and they all said, no, everything's fine. And Hashem said, asking, Hashem sending a lesson, anything to be fixed inside. That's what they're asking you. If Hashem made you that person come by, I wasn't to fix your table, was to fix.
Unbelievable. In other words, even a simple saying like a guy says, that's also a message.
Anything needs repair.
Yeah. You know, I had a guy, I don't know if you remember, a guy whose name is, his name was Yoel, he owned the Jewish, he was a big guy, guy's name was Yoel, I don't remember his last name, he moved to Eretz Yisrael recently. And he was arguing.
The newspaper?
Yeah. Tall guy, yeah. Oh, man. Yes. I forget his last name, right? It's evading me. But anyway, point is the story. So he told me once that one night he had an argument with his wife. He wanted to cut sugar for his own diet, and he wanted to eliminate sugar from his house. The wife said, just because you want to cut sugar from your diet doesn't mean that the whole house can't have sugar. You know, like, slow down, you know, don't be selfish. And they got into an argument. Okay. Kitzer, they went to sleep. Huh? No, he put it on camera.
Oh,
No, he put it on camera. He was happy to put it out. Maybe that's why I don't remember his last name. So, bottom line, they went to sleep. Okay. By the way, the worst marriage advice. Okay, I always say this: the worst marriage advice I ever got was don't go to sleep angry. Yeah, the worst marriage is go to sleep angry. Why? David HaMelech says be'erev yolin bechi v'lo karina. Yeah, sometimes you're hangry. Sometimes you're tired, isn't that? Go to sleep angry. What did Moshe Rabbeinu say to Kairach? Right? He says, Boiker, v'yoyda Hashem asa shaloi. Tomorrow morning, first word he says, Boiker. Anyway, so I went to sleep angry. The next day he went to work. And he showed me a picture of it. Next day he goes to work, and he sees, like an hour away from here, he sees a huge billboard. Oh, Yoel Halperin, his name is. Yeah. He sees a huge billboard from the Marines. And it says, what does it say on the billboard? It says, battles are won from within, graffitied on it, Yoel. How many Yoels are in LA? Just me and him. Yeah? Battles are won from within, Yoel, graffitied on it. And he looked at it, and he said, huh?
YOLO.
It says Y-O-E-L.
You only live once.
No, it said Y-O-E-L, not YOLO.
Not a J. It's a Y.
Not a J, Y-O-E-L. I'll show you the picture, we'll have to put it up. Y-O-E-L. And immediately he felt Hashem was talking to him. It was a message to him. I don't know who graffitied it. He didn't even know. He snapped a picture, he sent it to his wife, he says, I'm sorry, with a bunch of emojis. And he apologized 1,000 times. And that was the end of that. So it's very interesting you're saying that Hashem Tov's story is, you hear, it's a message for you. Yeah, every time you hear something that resonates, you should think twice. Yeah.
We do say Avodah Zarah every time when we say Krishma,
Every time I say Krishma, yeah.
Chol
mi. Shechata kenegdi, right.
Very hard to do that.
Right. Yeah. If you don't fall asleep beforehand, but yeah, the doctor's a tzaddik. He leans Kriya Shema Shalamita with the Ravina Shalom every night. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, we're very inspired by you, doctor. Okay, so weiter. Gemara says, Ihachi, if it's true that it's mutter to buy a behema from a goy l'shem carbon, because if it's the guy's own behema, he's makpid not to mate with the behema because he doesn't want it to become an akara or to be weakened. Ihachi asks the Gemara, Zecharim and Nekevis loy nizbun. You shouldn't be able to buy behemoths zecharim from goyish females. Why? The chashinan dilma marbele lova. Maybe the female guy, was marbia the zachar, the behemoth zachar. Why? Because in such a case, there's no svara of akara because it's a male animal, and there's also no svara of besora makchish, that it becomes weaker. It's only if it's a nekeva animal, that's when it becomes weaker, or there's a chashash akara. But if it's a zachar animal, there's no chashash. So if there's no chashash, so maybe you shouldn't be allowed to buy behemoth zcharim from a non-Jewish female. So the Gemara says no. Kivan de migareba, yeah. Once she's riveya the behema, then the behema will always follow her around. Right? The behema will fall in love with her, I guess. So then maratza, she's afraid because people are going to notice. Once she's riveya the behema, people are going to notice, why is the donkey constantly chasing her? Yeah. So mamela, she also refrains. She holds back from revere with a male animal. Asks the Gemara, Armalta leterabe kalba. The halacha is that a widow should not raise a dog. Why? Because maybe she'll mate with the dog. That's what Rav Yosef said. And don't have a single guy, a bacher, stay, at a woman's house, because we're afraid that she's gonna seduce him. And this guy, this student, this bacher, is a tzenua. He's never gonna publicize what happened, right? He's shy, and so she's not gonna be afraid to seduce him. So Bishlam Barbe Rav, it's niyale. I understand why you're telling me a Talmud in yeshiva should not stay with a woman. Yeah, it's because she might seduce him, and she's not afraid to seduce him because she's secure that he's not going to publicize it. But a kalba, you just told me animals will follow a person around. So why shouldn't an almana raise a kelev? You just told me, keeping the megarabe maratza. When it comes to an animal, a woman doesn't want to be revey an animal. You know why? Because so the Gemara says maybe a dog is different than other animals. You know why?
Kivan. An issue with a dog.
Huh?
We still have an issue with a dog.
Kivan the chishad yele umtza misracha basra. With a dog, anytime you throw a piece of meat, the dog is going to follow. The dog is going to run to you. So meimer amri inchi. So even if you reveya a dog, even if she mates with a dog, she's not afraid that she's going to be exposed because the dog follows her around. You know why? Because she's going to claim, and people will assume, hide the misracha basra. The reason why the dog is following her around, v'shem umtzedek misrach. It's because she keeps throwing in pieces of meat. So she's not going to be accused so easily with a dog That's why Rav Yosef says behemoths are different. Behemoths are different.
You say that about the donkey also.
Say what?
Why can't you say that about the donkey?
Donkeys don't. When you throw them a piece of meat, they don't jump on it the way a dog does. Anybody here own a dog? Anybody owned a dog here? No dogs? Okay.
The Gemara also said birds, right?
What about birds?
It was also concerned about birds.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about Oifus Mitzvah tomorrow. We'll stop over here for now. And tomorrow we'll continue to Chav Gimel.